Welcome to the Startup Grind.
The idea is to talk to entrepreneurs who are successful, like Roy, and find some inspiration from his success, find some answers as an entrepreneur, find reasons to work with him, and learn from such people. So with that, I'll do a very brief Zopim introduction. I was in India, and my company was using a chat software for a website, and some webmaster of mine, so some guy using the chat software, I looked at it and I asked, why are you using the software? There are so many, Joomla, there's a CMS which has so many add-ons. So why the software? He said it's the best chat software he has seen, and that software was Zopim. So this is how you touch your end users, how you touch your customers. For somebody who doesn't have an ad budget in double-digit figures, in double-digit case, Zopim has built, Roy has built the company from scratch without, if you have ever talked, you speak to entrepreneurs, VC-funded entrepreneurs spend 3-digit case in ad budgets every month. I know that. He has spent less than 2 digits, single-digit ad budget. That's a miracle. That's something that never heard, and he has built it from scratch from Singapore. So this is something to be proud of, and I can tell you he's in the list of top 5 entrepreneurs I like and I aspire to be. So with that, we'll start with Roy. Starting comments.
Right. Thanks, Shasheng, for introducing me in such an honorable manner. I feel very flattered. Shasheng himself is a good friend and a very respected entrepreneur friend of mine. He's built a business that's much bigger than we are right now in terms of sales volume, and we have a lot to learn from him as well. I think the reason that I'm here today, as with a lot of other entrepreneurs on the Startup Grind event, right, is that we have failed more than anyone else, and we've managed to sort of learn quickly or recover quickly from those lessons that we are still surviving today. So hopefully from today's session, I can share some of those lessons that we learned from all the stumbles that we've made, from all the falls that we've had, and everyone can learn from it.
Great. So again, once again, a request for all those standing up. It's going to last more than 30 minutes. I can assure you that. So you can come here. There are seats here. They can sit on.
It's going to be very long-winded.
My idea is not to have this as a one-off event, but he will bear his heart out, and we will, everybody in the room will learn something out of this, this event. Starting with some questions I have. The first question is a very generic question. The question is, what are your 3 challenges that you faced when you started your company, when you were profitable, and now when you are successful?
Right. Well, to approach this question, right, I think there was this analogy that an entrepreneurial professor in Stanford once told us, and it was basically this: that starting up a company is like trying to ride a bicycle as you are trying to build the bicycle. So it's not even there yet. You're trying to build it, and you're trying to balance yourself at the same time, and you keep stumbling and falling because you have no idea how to do it. Right? It's all too tough. For first-time entrepreneurs, this is my addition to this analogy. For first-time entrepreneurs, it's even worse than that. It's learning how to ride a bike while you're learning how to build a bike. It's literally like that. So every day when we came to work in office, right? Back then our office was in NUS. When we came to work, we were trying our best to figure out what to do the next day that would add the most value to the company. And more often than not, whatever we tried seemed to fail. Seemed to backfire on us. And it's a matter of trying to figure out how you can use existing resources that you have within limited time, because we had limited funding at that point in time, right? And trying to get the first dollar in from your customer. So I said the first problem we had as a company was finding product market fit, because we built a product that we thought was awesome, and now we had to prove it in the market to get like the first user to use our product, and then the next 10 users to use the product, and then the next 100 users to use the product. And then subsequently they're using our product, but it's for free because earlier on we were in beta phase, right? So then the challenge became, how do we get the first customer to pay for our product? And then we get the next 10 and the next 100. So this was the biggest challenge that we had in our earlier days. And because we were first-time entrepreneurs, we didn't have a lot of confidence in our abilities to market the product. We weren't even sure if the product was really great for the market or not. So one of the lessons that I always remember having is that when we ran out of money, we literally raised only 50,000 at the beginning when we founded the company. After 2 years of paying ourselves close to nothing, like $500 a month, we were really running out of money. And that was when we told ourselves, even though we don't think the market is ready to pay for our product, we're just going to roll out pricing. And that day was when we were surprised and very gratified that a lot of our customers that were using our product then were willing to pay that $1,500 for our product. So that day I remember we coded non-stop the whole night, trying to debug all the problems with our billing process. And when we finally pressed the launch button and sent out emails to all our customers, and then we sat there and waited, and suddenly you see the money come in, like from our payment gateway, we see like, wow, people are willing to pay. We didn't have a lot of customers then, maybe 1,000 customers, but that month or that week itself, we saw 10% of them actually took out their credit card and just started paying for our product. So that was a moment of epiphany for us, that even though we as product owners, we as business owners, may not feel that the product is ready, because we are quite perfectionists by nature, that there is a crowd out there that has seen the value in our product, that may be willing to pay for our product. Of course, you have to do a lot of market research rather than be as reckless as us and just roll it out, right? That was one thing we should have done earlier on. Send out surveys, ask people how much they're willing to pay. So those are the lessons that we didn't know before, but when we finally did roll it out, that was an inflection point. So that day itself, the only new addition we had to our product was pricing. Nothing else. We didn't roll out new features. We literally took the beta package, which was all features available, and we just sliced it up into smaller pieces and said, there's this free light package, there's this basic package, the cheaper one with one agent, limited features, and then the next one, a higher tier one with more features. And that's it. We rolled it out without any additional features, and suddenly from that point onward, we saw a kind of inflection point where customers started to sign up for our product even at a higher rate, and started upgrading, whipping up their credit card and paying for our product. And the reason for that was actually because in the small medium business space, or actually in any B2B space, our group of customers want to pay for our product. They don't want it to be free. They want the assurance that your product is of good quality. They want the assurance that your company is still going to be around, and that they won't be shocked when you finally roll out pricing. Because for the longest time, they didn't know what we were going to build then. So that was something really surprising for us when we first launched our product, and that was pricing actually helped our business grow. To address the second question, right, which was when we arrived at profitability.
Yeah.
So we arrived at profitability about 2.5 years after we started the company. First 2 years almost doing nothing, and then trying to sell to enterprises. That's a long story for the next time. There are some enterprise folks here, so I don't want to like.
No, go ahead. That's a lesson every entrepreneur needs to learn.
No. I think every set of entrepreneurs have a specific skill set. Something that they are inherently good at. The team is inherently good at. And for our team, the strength wasn't in dealing with enterprises. Wasn't in
which never is. Trust me. Dealing with enterprise is never a strength.
It's something you cultivate over time, and it's not something you step out fresh out of school and you figure out how to do, which was what we were trying to do. So today, if you were to put me in the enterprise sales call, I have a much better idea of what needed to be done. But the DNA in our company, right, especially the founders, was that we didn't like dealing with it. We like shorter sales cycle. We like customers that just figure out how to use the product themselves without requiring demos. Customers who eventually decide that they love the product enough to pay for the product without us being involved in this process. So we kind of like this efficient model of sales. So well, to answer the question, right, when the challenge we had when we arrived at profitability was to ramp up the growth, figuring out what was the way to accelerate growth at the lowest cost. Because we are dealing with, for those who are not familiar with our product, we are selling a live chat software that allows any businesses with their own websites to chat with customers that are live on their website. So think about it as almost like a retail store, except you are running your store online, and you can still see customers as they stream in. You can see which country they're from, how many times they've been on the site, what kind of chat history they had, and you engage them personally, one-to-one. and you sell your product to them directly. So this is the product that we are selling. Our subscription model is actually on the very low end. We have a free package, and then above that, we have a package that is priced at about $14 per agent. So we're not charging a lot of money for our service, our solution. So that the only way our business becomes a feasible operation was to get huge volumes of customers. So when we first started the company, when we first launched pricing, we had 1,000 beta customers. In our mind, the math was never going to work out. Like if 10% were willing to pay, and if each of them paid us $10 every month, wow, we will only have 100 paying customers paying $10 every month, meaning $1,000 every month. That's hardly enough to even let my girlfriend go on a shopping spree, right? As we reach profitability, the question we had in mind was how do we continue sustaining this growth? And we sort of kept. The lucky thing for us was that our product was inherently viral. So the fact that our customers used us on their website meant that they are advertising for us because it says powered by Zopim. And the great thing was all their competitors and all their friends would just go onto those websites and like, I like this chat widget, maybe I should get it for my own site as well. And they come and sign up for it, and then this cycle goes on and on. So for us, the challenge we had was to keep sustaining this viral growth, keep improving the product, keep making the widget look really great, so people came on and signed up more. And then we also work on the back end. We have a back end dashboard that customers can log into to see what kind of customers they have on the website. So we work on that to increase retention rate as well. So there were two things, growth rate and retention rate. For any kind of SaaS business, those are the two key metrics you need to keep in mind.
On the product side, I noticed that you have Google Analytics type 2 on the backend side, where a buyer can see where, a webmaster can see where the buyers are coming from.
Right.
And I thought that was cool, and nobody else offered that at that point. Right now, people are obviously copying that, right?
Yeah.
But how did you come up with something like that? It's just too unique, right?
The way we came up with the product right at the beginning was very haphazard. When we first started Zopim, we just thought, wouldn't it be so cool if we could just put like a chat widget on any website and have people talk to website owners? And this business would be groundbreaking, really innovative. Like we'd be first in the market to come out with this. Like maybe 3 or 4 months after developing the product, we came upon a review site that had a whole list of such customers, such competitors. When I mean a whole list, I'm talking about like 50 competitors, with one company that has already IPO doing the same thing. So while we thought we were screwed, right? It turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because what we did back then was to redesign how this chat widget would work and how we expect businesses to use our product to talk to their customers, leveraging the latest technology available. So at that point in time, most of the products were using pop-up. So you click on it, another pop-up browser would appear. So in our mind, it needed to be more seamless than that. So we were actually the first in market to come up with a widget that actually was within your website. So customers didn't have to change windows just to chat with you.
Because pop-up blockers won't block this, because this is JS, right?
Correct. So literally we were the first in the market to come up with this solution. And to answer your question about how we actually came up with those ideas, we ate our own dog food. So every day, I was the developer of this product along with my 3 other co-founders. We were developing a product, and we just sat in front of the dashboard talking to whichever customers come to the website. And they would make suggestions every now and then that we would think, that makes sense. Maybe you should build it in today. And then we just code it in. So little by little, the product took shape. And the good thing was we were sort of bumming around for 2 years doing this, right? Just talking to customers on the website. So by the end of the 2 years, that was the reason why we laid the foundation for customers actually being willing to pay for our product. Just simply talking to every single one of them and understanding what they need.
So to sum it up, what are your 3 challenges now?
My 3 challenges now.
Top 3.
Not to screw up this presentation, to not look too stupid. Well, the 3 challenges we have now is that we've reached profitability. We've grown the team to this point where we have 25 employees over here and 15 in Philippines. And our growth rate has been like triple every year in terms of all metrics, revenue, headcount, and everything. The challenge now is to sustain this 3x growth next 2 or 3 years, maybe even increase the rate of growth over the next 2 or 3 years. The challenge that we have after profitability right now is processes. We've reached a point where the company is big enough that we need to sort of pass on our DNA on how to build great products, how to market the products, on to the next generation of Zopim guys that join us, right? So while we have been very haphazard ourselves and sort of stumbled our way through to arrive at where we are today, we now need to figure out what we did right back then and hand this knowledge over to the next 10, 20, 50 guys that are going to join Zopim from now on. So that's where I see one of the challenge that we have, which is hiring great people and then giving them the right process to succeed at what they're doing.
In that sense, what's your hiring philosophy? What do you offer to a candidate that might be in this crowd?
We offer a great pay. No, not that. We're still a startup.
That's the point. That's the point. You know, we all know people who join Apple and Google were millionaires, Facebook as well, Microsoft as well. So, do you see that kind of crowd here that would work for not a great pay? So, Son, take note. but stock options. Do you see people here fighting for stock options, fighting for, you know, all right, give me some sustainable pay, give me something that I can take home and I can live a good life, at least, you know, get an apartment, eat food, but give me equity. Do you see people fighting for that?
Yeah. So we are one of those rare companies that are at this stage of growth, profitable and everything, and we are still carving up a big portion of our equity for employee stock options. And we view that as very important because we want our company to grow along with our employees. And the best way for them to keep motivated in terms of delivering on their results was to be sure that as the company grew in value, that they would have a payout eventually. As for hiring philosophy, personally, I'm a huge fan of Daniel Pink's ideology about motivating people at work. There's only this amount that pay can do for you. Like at the very minimum, you need to give a very competitive pay to your employees. But past a certain point where they are comfortable, they realize that they are making about the same as their peers, maybe even better. Past that point, what actually motivates these guys, the talented, the bright guys, are the three things that he mentions in his book and in his talks, which is autonomy over their work, a lot of control over what they are supposed to do, so no micromanaging on our end, and mastery over their work, which is the opportunity for them to grow as they are doing the work, being able to upgrade themselves, being able to learn from peers around them. So having smart peers around them matters a lot as well, and having a sense of purpose, which binds the first two things together. So you need to have autonomy and mastery over your work. But what kind of autonomy? You need to have a clear idea of what the purpose of the company is, what the purpose of each individual department is, as well as what the purpose of they themselves. Everyone has a sense of purpose in life. So all this has to be kind of aligned, and that is where our hiring philosophy is. We sort of figure out who are the right candidates to join us on this journey, and then we sell to them. This is what we are trying to achieve in the next couple of years. Are you aligned with us? And as you work with us, every quarter as we come up with new objectives, we try and align it with what every single employee wants to achieve as well. So those are the couple of things. Technically though, I would say one of the things that worked really well for us was before we got any employee on board, we tend to have this practice of having them work for us for a day. So after the whole interview process is done, right, and we are reasonably impressed, we would get this guy to come in and book a full day, and we would compensate him for the days of work. And then after that day, we would figure out, okay, would this guy be a good fit for us? And the guy will be thinking the same as well, because he's worked with us directly. And he'll be thinking, you know, is this place too fun for me? Is that too much?
I'm going to steal that idea, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I take credit for the idea.
So, do you see people, so this idea of having, we spoke about this before, do you see people responding to that here in Singapore? People are, underemployment or no employment is rare. People, 1% unemployment, right? This is a country where people are generally very, well taken care of, right? Do you see people responding to that?
So they aren't in this for that one day's pay. So a lot of the candidates come in being pretty well off, middle class or whatever. But even if they reject the notion of being paid for a day's work. We insist on them.
Not just the pay, but in the whole package, equity, not, so you won't pay as much as NCS, let's just say, right? This is going to be on YouTube, right? I'm going to be killed.
No, but we actually pay very well.
So
join us.
I'm just saying, so the point is, you can never be in a bidding war, right? If you have engineers who look for money, right, then there's going to be a point where the engineers will say, look, I'm going to get a better pay somewhere else, right? So how do people respond to the whole package, which is, you're working for a startup, the startup is going to be $1 billion someday. I'm going to give you equity. How do people respond to that?
We had this problem earlier on, I think in our first year of profitability. So we were still ramen profitable, barely breaking even, but making a bit of money. We weren't able to match the highest pay in the industry. But what every single employee came on board, what they had the opportunity to do was to work very closely with us, the founders, and those were the more entrepreneurial ones that we attracted at the beginning.
How do you find those entrepreneurs?
Well, at events like this, that's why I am here.
So yeah, that's another question that I had. Do entrepreneurs make, or do they even look for jobs? And if they do, then do they make good employees? Because they are their own bosses, right? They want to be at least.
That's a very tough question to answer. The only way to attract entrepreneurs, and we have quite a lot of entrepreneurs in our team. Jin Han over here, he's the founder of GoThere.sg. I think some of the local guys would know them as a very famous map company. Even before Google Maps came to Singapore and did.
I use your application.
Yeah, still one of the most popular mapping applications in Singapore. So he's an entrepreneur himself. We have guys that sold off their own e-commerce businesses and join us as well. I don't know if they are here today. We've had a friend that was funded by 500 startups.
Wow.
And he's joined us as well as a product manager. So it's a delicate balance because we understand their need to consistently innovate and have full control over their product.
Yeah.
So have full control over their responsibilities. So we try our best to give them that. And that's what I think that's one thing that we have done pretty well, which is once we got a good guy on board, we try and stay out of the way and let him execute on his own and give him all the resources he needs to succeed.
The reason we spend 10 minutes on hiring and jobs is because we are all young people. And companies like IBM and Accenture and NCS and Sandhill have a very standard process of hiring. You apply, you go to an MBA college, you get an MBA, you apply, you get a job, and then you move through the hierarchy for the next 20 years to be the director of communications, whatever. Startups have a very different philosophy, very different philosophy. As he said, like Son works with us. He doesn't work for us, he works with us. He's an entrepreneur on his own. Now, the way startup hires is that startup is not looking for employees. Startup is looking for entrepreneurs, and that's where the whole difference comes from when you work for a company. Let's say when you work for IBM, they tell you what to do. If you apply your brain and you show the ability to get things done, then you'll be cast aside sooner or later. But in a startup, that's the number one thing that we look for. I don't look for people who follow commands. That's just going to kill you very soon. So that's why we're all young people here. And many of us want to start up, many of us want to go on our own way, be our own bosses. But at what time do you make a call and say, look, let me work for a bigger cause? Let me work for a company that's going to be big, and let me take a pie of that, pie of a bigger pie, and maybe that pie is going to be bigger than the pizza that you are cooking. So that's something that affects all of us, all of the young people. Whether we work for ourselves or work for somebody else, or we work in a non-profit, for-profit, that doesn't matter. So coming back to the whole thing, our discussion on Zopim itself. I've seen trends. Zopim is going to be the next billion-dollar company, I'm very sure. When were you close to giving up? You're going to be $1 billion in a few years, but when were you close to giving up? And what's that message that you want to give to an entrepreneur who is close to giving up now?
I remember one point in my life where that was probably the only time I really felt like giving up on working on Zopim. And that was the point where we were in our second year and our $50,000 grant has disappeared. And we were forced to not take pay for a good couple of months. And it seemed like our product wasn't really going anywhere. everyone in the company, the founders, back then it was just the founders, we were a little bit demoralized and we weren't quite sure how to go forward. I remember a day when I sat all the other founders down and I just told them, in a month's time we're going to give up, unless several things change. Our work attitude, what time we need to show up for work. I know entrepreneurs love to work late, but there's some point in time where people need to come together and have discussions and motivate each other and encourage each other. So I told them, okay, we need to figure out a way where we can work together over some period of time, at least 5-6 hours a day. And we need to really gun down and start figuring out how to make money from our product.
When was this? Which year was this?
So 2007 was when we first started Zopim, or we were still working on our final year project, so we were still students. 2008 was when we were officially unemployed in our parents' eyes. And for like 1.5 years, maybe I'd say 2009 June was when I sort of did this. And it was demoralizing because we were students, right? We didn't have much savings to begin with.
So you glanced upon a very touchy subject, parents. How did they react? You being without a job.
Wow. Well, it depends from parents to parents, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can't paint them in one color, but what's your experience?
So we were all very fortunate. We were all middle income to, I guess, I have a rich co-founder that has quite a big inheritance. But aside from that, we were all not that worried about bringing food home. And that was one thing that was important for us because my parents didn't know what the hell I was doing, but he was like, go do whatever you want, just enjoy yourselves. But my other co-founder didn't have this luxury. If you go home and the parents.
So what's the message a young entrepreneur sitting here would take to his parents today? And what do you want him to tell to his parents? So that my mom, I have an elder brother who's a doctor, and I'm still not as good as him. I can do whatever in life, but I'm still not good as my elder brother who's a doctor, right? So I have made peace with that. So my message to my mom is that I'll try to do good in life. That's it. But what message would what message would a young entrepreneur sitting here would take to his parents today and say, look, give me more time or what?
Play the emotional card.
Yeah, wow.
Do you love me? Well, love is supposed to be unconditional, right? They shouldn't be that worried about you bringing money back, especially in this day and age. Most of our parents are self-sufficient. I think what we want to convince our parents is that I'm going to be doing this for a long time, maybe 50, 60 years. And I think entrepreneurship to be that path I want to be on. Shouldn't you give me at least the first couple of years after graduating to find out what exactly I like to do? Don't worry about money. I'm going to make money eventually. That's a given, right? So why don't you just let me figure out exactly what I needed to do? And the first few years is when you can try all sorts of crazy things out, and then find the one that you like and develop vertically or your specialization in it.
Right.
If you just pick something that you hated, but you're being paid well for it, and you just climb the ladder for that, you're just going to be miserable all your life, even if you're going to be paid quite a bit.
I say that because let's say your future employee has 2 job offers, one from Zopim. Of course, Zopim is a small company compared to, let's say, an MNC like IBM, and they offer the same salary, and they take it to their parents and say, give me, tell me what to do, give me an option.
Right.
So, what would you tell to that person who has 2 job offers, one from IBM, one from Zopim, and of course Zopim is a smaller company, IBM is MNC, big bill hours, $100 plus. So, what's your message to that guy?
Right. Come work with us for one day. Really. That is the kicker, because once they have worked with us for a day, they've seen the culture that we have. They work with bright, talented people that are in the team.
But he wouldn't get a chance to work with IBM for one day.
He wouldn't, yeah.
How would he?
No, he doesn't. There's no comparison at all. Once he worked with a startup that has an awesome culture, I think he will be set on it.
Can the message be that you could be the next millionaire working here?
That's actually something I want to add on, because if you work with a startup that has very entrepreneurial-minded founders, we understand what our employees are going through, especially those that came from an entrepreneurship background. And there has been cases where our partners or our early employees said that, hey, I needed to leave. I need to start something myself. In fact, that was how Go There got founded, because one of the early guys that joined us said, I need to start Go There right now. And what we said was, oh, go long. you need to do it, you know, just go ahead and do it. And what we are trying to do here is that as we attract more entrepreneurial-minded people, as we attract more talented people into the company, perhaps at a point where we sell off the company and everyone gets a decent chunk of change in their pocket, right? We will form our own little teams, form our own little PayPal mafia.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and then the cycle carries on.
Yeah, that's my word. You know, if one of us or any of us gets a liquidity event, we're going to be investing that money back in Singapore. That's a word. I'm not going to fly off to San Francisco. But that being said, coming back to the whole startup scene and funding, you said you got $50,000 in funding, right?
Yeah.
Just 50K?
So 50,000 was the EA iJam funding, and we were actually incubated in NUS under NUS.
If you take a large ballpark, it won't be more than, let's say, 100K, right?
Subsequently, we did take, just to be on the record, right? We did take a round of funding about $300,000 from Spring Seeds and NUS as well. They followed on with 300,000, but those were redeemable, and we eventually did redeem it.
How long were you on 50K funding? How long were you?
2 years.
2 years. So that, I think for all practical purposes, you can raise funds later on, but for 2 years, if you did spend 2 years with 50K funding, entrepreneurs today are rushing for investment or are pushing for investment or are hinging all their plans on the first tranche or the first seed money that they'll get. I see a lot of entrepreneurs like that. Is first funding seed money, is that a myth? People can they start on their own with their friends and family's money, or do they really need capital to start? What's your opinion?
The model I think works best today is having a bunch of good guys, talented guys, your founders, come together and build a product in a garage, in your mom's place, whatever it is.
What if I need $100,000 to do that?
Then this doesn't work. I mean, what I'm saying here is that for a lot of us who are in the software space, it's actually very possible to build a decent prototype, to go and sort of roll it out into the market, to test it against the crowd, to see whether you can find people willing to use your product, and maybe even get a few paying customers before raising the next round of money. And at that point, right, you get a much higher valuation, and the investors are actually confident enough to put a bigger chunk of money into your company.
So, for entrepreneur, what's your message? Should they walk out of a college or walk out of their job and start looking for funding? Or should they walk out of a college, work for a job, and then convince 5 of their friends and then start looking for a garage that they can rent?
I think they should walk out of college or walk out of a job and find a great company like Zopim to work in, and then work with talented people.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
No, I'm kidding. It takes a lot of balls to walk away from a high-paying job. That is the truth. I would definitely recommend, at least in Singapore, for entrepreneurs to graduate. Try out something just after graduating. Like, you're still able to live within $500 every month of allowance. You're still staying with your mom, or your parents, your girlfriend isn't requiring you to pay a lot for her, and
Hopefully.
I hope there aren't any families over here. Yeah, so I would highly suggest that, because what I've seen is that when people do enter a job, right, and they start being paid well, the barrier to leaving is actually very high. The opportunity cost for leaving is very high. So I don't see a lot of that happening these days.
So we've covered entrepreneurs, we've covered startups in a very short manner. Talking about big companies, do you see Singapore as a place where you can build? We spoke about that. The last biggest name out of Singapore was Creative. And we haven't seen many successes here, and that's the part of the reason of behind that is small market, all that. But do you see Singapore producing the next billion-dollar company, and do you see Zopim being just based out of here to be a billion-dollar company, and do you see yourself expanding to other countries?
I can't say for sure now how our growth trend is going to be like, but we feel very confident staying in Singapore. Basing our headquarters from Singapore, our development headquarters over here in Singapore.
You need like thousands of developers. How will you? Does Singapore have enough people to?
I personally, think if we were to grow up to 500 developers, I think we still have enough talent over here in Singapore, all around the region, because the great thing about being based in Singapore is that we have access to the Vietnamese market, we have access to Filipino talents, we have access to Thai talents. So within this area, this entire region, maybe even attracting developers from India and China as well. So we are in a very great position to tap into the market for these talents. So I feel, and the competitiveness of the talents over here in this region is much lower than if you were to base yourself in Silicon Valley. Yes, Silicon Valley churns out all the top graduates from MIT, from Stanford, but you'll be paying the top dollars and competing with the likes of Google, the largest startups, so to speak, and as well as the emerging startups from that area for the same pool of talent. And one huge advantage we have over Silicon Valley is that our cost of living here is so much lower. We can actually afford to live on a salary that is half the size of what someone else is getting in the US. And still save maybe more.
So that leads to my next question, which is Silicon Valley, if you have seen, has big startups spawn smaller startups. Silicon Valley is about regenerating that whole entrepreneur scene. Are you ready for people leaving Zopim in like 5 years and starting their own companies?
I think I want that to happen. Preferably by 5 years, we have already got ourselves listed and everything.
Can a message be that work with Zopim for 5 years and we will Indian invest your company after that if you want to start up?
Possibly. Or work with us for 3 years, learn as much as you can during our growth process as well, if you need be, because we will have a much larger team by then. If you need to take a couple of guys, work on a side project yourself. Yeah.
So we need a Silicon Valley mindset here where people can join a company if they like to, learn from the entrepreneur, learn from the process, learn from their business, and then start off on their own. Are you as a you are an entrepreneur, but you are a CEO as well. Are you as a CEO ready for something like that? Because that's going to drain your talent.
I think there are enough. There's a big enough pool of talent over here in Singapore. There's a big enough pool of entrepreneurs that want to try and make a difference in the universe, that even if some of them did leave us and want to try something big themselves, we can be supportive of them and still expect that another group of entrepreneurs can come on board.
Yeah, the reason I say that is because if you are in Silicon Valley and if you take a business plan to one of the VCs in Sandhill Road, the first thing that they look for, or first thing that you can sell, about yourself is you are an X and then a big bracket, and that big bracket would have a bigger name like ex-Googler or ex-Facebook. So somebody who started Asana is an ex-Facebook guy, LinkedIn, ex-LinkedIn. We have PayPal Mafia. Elon Musk is from PayPal, LinkedIn guys from PayPal. So there's a whole bunch of companies that people from PayPal started. So if you are a fresher from school or college, you have a better chance to work with startups and then get a name for yourself and then go to a VC and say, look, I built this startup as a VP tech, VP product, or an engineer, and I built it from, have helped the company build from scratch for the last 3 years, and now I want to start up my own company. So there's a bigger chance to get your company funded. The question was, if that happens in Singapore, because if this company grows bigger, if our company goes bigger, people are going to leave. Are we ready as entrepreneurs for that? And are entrepreneurs ready to take that chance and use it and run with it?
I'll look at it this way, because if I put myself in the shoes of an entrepreneur that is working in Zopim right now, my question would be very simple. Is my time better spent trying to build a new startup, of which the potential of growth is immense? I'll have a huge chunk of equity, and when I make an exit, I'll make probably more from it. Versus if I were to stay in this company, can the rate of growth exceed?
Right. I'm sure that's not going to be a question in the next 2-3 years. That's going to be a question in 5 years, once the maturity of the whole ecosystem takes shape.
Right.
So that being said, what are the advantages of being in Singapore? Why Singapore? Why not India or China or Silicon Valley?
One of the reasons why
that's apart from you being Singaporean. So
right.
You have to answer that as a non-Singaporean. Let's say you are a non-Singaporean. Why Singapore?
Well, one of the reasons why Zopim is successful today in our market is that we were able to compete at a price point that a lot of our Bay Area competitors couldn't compete at. So, barring the quality of the product, right, which we feel that we are the best in the market, we are able to still offer it at a price that is competitive to anyone else in this space. And the reason that we are able to do that is because we leverage on a lot of cost savings in this area. I mean, the cost of starting a company is really low over here in Singapore. The cost of talents, engineering talents, design talents in Singapore is low. We can actually hire people from around the region, like I said. And for support, in the US, if you would hire even a stay-home mom to do support, you'll be expecting to pay them like a good $4,000 or $5,000 a month US. And what we have here is that we have access to the Filipino market, where we are paying a significantly lesser amount for good quality support as well. And we are able to treat those employees much better than we would have been able to with the budget that we have in the US.
So the message is not India versus Singapore, the message is India plus Singapore, or Philippines plus Singapore. Using the advantage of Philippines and Singapore and the region.
Yeah, so our pool of resources is definitely not just Singapore.
Yeah.
We'll be dead.
So you are trying to leverage the whole of Asia and Southeast Asia in particular, and getting a power of that.
Yeah.
My question is, why if you have to go to any other region, why just Singapore? Why not Europe or China or Silicon Valley? What's that one thing Singapore has that probably China wouldn't have?
Well, I would still say we are interested in the markets that are around here, especially China, which is an interesting, huge and growing market, and we have access from it over here in Singapore. Why I wouldn't bring my team to Singapore, to China, is I'm not native Chinese myself, so it's kind of
challenges language. The way I see that is, this is the only region in the world which has English as the first language, right, of the world, right? So this is the only region which has English as the first language, and the resources at a cost which China cannot offer at this stage, and a market that is first world, people, law, IP laws that is first world. So I can base my company in China, but I am afraid of creating IP in China because I'm not sure if my developers walk out my door, if they carry a USB which has my source code. I'm open source by the way, but him. If they carry a USB with all the code, Singapore is a place where you can trust your developers and trust the IP and trust the laws and framework of the system to take care of all the intellectual property issues.
So to tap your brain a little bit, right? Since you are hiring people in India as well, is this a problem in India? Would you recommend that?
So here's the problem. If you have, I have a whole team in India. I sit in Singapore. The reason I sit in Singapore is because I register my IPs here. It doesn't matter where your IPs are created. What it matters is where your IPs are being registered as a company, where trademarks are, where your copyrights are. And Singapore, just for the sake of this crowd, Singapore is the only country in the world where you can go to a patent office and file patents in 36 countries, just out of this office here. So Singapore is the only, even in US, they'll only file for US. So in Singapore, sitting in Singapore, you can file for 36 countries. And I filed patent for my product at trademarks. Just go to the office here, and the best part is the government is going to help you do that. They're going to provide you with funds, they're going to provide you with support. So this is the only country in the world which comes, which just goes out of its way and says, look, I'm going to help you as an entrepreneur, tell me what you need. So, and I've been to a lot, we've been to a lot of places. This small nation makes sure that they treat small businesses as good as they treat a large business. And there's no discrimination, which we see in US. I can never go to a US government agency and ask for a tax reduction or ask for help because I won't have lobbying dollars, and this is true, right? Google spends more money in lobbying than Hollywood, right? So we know how that market goes. You need to lobby. In Singapore, you don't need to lobby. You just need to pick up a phone, talk to a Spring guy, and they're going to help you. I had a payment issue with one of the countries in Asia. They were not paying me. I called my Spring guy. He put me in touch with a ministry level guy who called up the counterpart in that country and helped me get the payment. So this is the kind of bureaucracy we have here, which goes out of its way to help entrepreneurs. So that one thing brought me to this country. That one thing has made me sink my roots deeper in this country. That the government will go out of its way to not bomb a country, but help entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs look for those things. They need those things. They need that small help.
Yeah, I have one thing to add though. Being a Singaporean, right? The question should have been more: why not base ourselves in Singapore, rather than why base ourselves in Singapore? It's very natural for us to base ourselves in Singapore simply because we are quite comfortable over here. But this is actually a bad reason for staying in Singapore, simply being that, oh, I'm a Singaporean and I kind of like being here. So the thing I like to share with entrepreneurs is that if you're targeting a market that is not in Singapore, which is what we are doing, and your business actually requires you to conduct sales in the country where you are selling it at, please uproot yourself and go to that market, because it's very hard for you to sell even remotely or even making frequent trips to the country if you don't have the commitment to be in the market that you are in and make that sale. It's very hard for you to see your sales start growing. So for us, we are in a fortunate position that most of our sales happen online, and us being here doesn't hamper our growth at all. Most of the business partnerships that we have can be conducted through email, through phone calls. So for us, it works perfectly well this way. But if there is a need for you to go to your market, be it in Europe, be it in China, be it in the US, you have to do it. You have to do it. Even if it's easy to raise money here, even if it's all your friends and relatives are here, you have to do it.
With that, I'm happy to take some questions if you.
Right. I'm actually quite intrigued by you saying that you hire mostly entrepreneur-minded people and they actually stick with you. Because talking to other, let's say, people who work for one of the successful entrepreneur companies, one of the problems is that because they hire people with the entrepreneurship in them, they actually leave because they get bored or they have their ideas and they want to leave. Maybe there is something else that you do well to retain those people. And you have originally how many co-founders?
I have a team of 4 co-founders.
Yeah, originally, right. And they're all with you?
Yeah.
And besides that, did you set aside ownership shares for employees?
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that we do set aside a decent chunk of stock options, about 15%, to be distributed among our employees.
Okay.
And I mean, I personally, I sold the idea of everyone having options and the valuation of the company eventually growing to a point where everyone comfortably gets a 6-digit payout by the time we sell the company. And this is something that I truly believe in. And when I sell it to the employees, they are able to truly believe in it because I myself think I can do it.
That can be that the valuation can actually be traced through term sheets. So that's a very legit thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I do agree that if you hire entrepreneurial-minded employees, the cost of keeping them involved, keeping them within the company is a lot higher. Because you have to keep them mentally challenged, you have to keep them challenged from the point of compensation, because they know that they can possibly go out there and start something themselves. I think this keeps us growing at a faster rate because we ourselves are kept on our toes and be like, no, we need to think of a better vision. We need to think of a way to grow our company more than 3x, 4x, just so that we can keep these guys interested in what they're doing.
But once you become much bigger, and let's say that you have, as owners, one of the better known or huge, international venture capitalists or whoever, you will have less freedom in doing so, and your employee turnover may become higher because you are not able to offer as high incentive system as you.
It's very possible. It's very possible. We try not to project that far ahead and worry about problems that may or may not come. What we're trying to do right now, and I agree with you, because every single step of the way we are facing different kind of challenges. Right now, it could be trying to keep these guys intrigued. At a later stage, we may reach a plateau, and we have to figure out how else to keep these guys on board. I do agree. Yeah.
What's the percentage of Singaporeans in your total employees?
Percent. 60. 70. So high. 70%. 60-70%.
But you do have sort of people who are part-timers or not on your payroll.
Oh, no, these are all full-timers. So out of 25, 60-70% of them are Singaporeans. The next largest majority and possibly growing fast as well will be the Vietnamese. We have.
I think that's the point is that startups don't have boundaries.
Yeah.
So whether it's Singaporeans or whether it's any other nationality, we are working with entrepreneurs who have dreams.
Yeah.
And if this nation accepts them, this nation is going to grow.
Yeah.
If we stop accepting them, they're going to go to their own country and build bigger companies. So I don't think that nationality is an issue. Yeah,
So for you, profitability was kind of a sudden, unexpected thing, right? Reaching that level. So you must have an investment plan before you reached that. Did the profitability thing actually change your ideology in terms of what you wanted to invest in, where you wanted to go forward?
Did you buy a car?
Well, yeah, did you buy a car?
Oh, yeah.
But, sorry,
Unfortunately, yes.
but also in the sense that that's when a company sometimes struggles when they reach profitability. Then they're investing their own money, right? And then they struggle to find out which is the best avenue. Some of them go the wrong way, some of them go the right way. So what was your methodology for figuring out?
Well, yeah, so again, we were lucky that our product is inherently viral. So all our profits literally went back to the company to hire people that would work on the product team. Engineers, designers, eventually product managers. So this single-minded focus, we didn't really think about, okay, how are we going to start selling to the larger enterprise? How are we going to start structuring an inside sales team? How to start structuring a performance marketing team? We didn't have to worry about that at all, because we realized that as long as we can keep pumping money in to increase the viral growth of our product, to the quality of the product, and to reduce the churn rate at which people were leaving us and people were stopping to pay it, were no longer paying us, we could just continually grow the base. So at the beginning, when we were ramen profitable, this was all that we were doing. So right now, where we are at a point where we can think of diversifying our resources into marketing, into sales, this is now when we are diversifying our
You've got
investment.
profits, you invested that back in the company. Now,
Into
Sam
products,
tells
yeah.
me I need to wrap this up quickly, so a few more.
Hi, just now you were saying most difficult time in your company, and that was really, really interesting. Could you complete that? How do you go through that toughest time in your life and for Zopim? And also,
In your life?
maybe to add on to that,
Toughest time
when
in
you
your life.
exactly
Was that the first time of
hold
your
on.
life, or?